Natalie McNally was 32 years old and 15 weeks pregnant. She had watched what she believed was her boyfriend broadcasting live, not knowing he was already on his way to her door. This is the story of a murder built around an alibi. Before she was a headline, Natalie McNally was a reader. Her parents, Noel and Bernie, remember a house where she always had a book on the go, where she would rather sit and read than tidy the room she left like a bomb site. She had lived with type 1 diabetes since she was young. She supported Everton, travelling to matches with her father and her brothers, loving the crick as much as the football. Her favourite band was The Killers. She was, by every account of the people who knew her, intelligent, kind, and quietly certain of what she wanted.
She was very intelligent
and
girl.
as well.
She was no age,
She was always very smart. And
she loved reading, didn't she?
reading.
That was her main thing, you know. She'd be reading all the
she
time.
had 3 books on the go.
And
She was one of 4, the only daughter with 3 brothers, Niall, Declan, and Brendan. Her mother has described her simply as her best friend. She had celebrated her 32nd birthday with her parents that October, and in the months before, she had been the kind of daughter who was in and out of her family's lives constantly, a fixture at the Sunday table, on the phone, at the football. Her father remembers her as someone who was happy and content with life. And then, in his words, somebody came and took that away. In November 2022, she told her family news that made the whole house start planning. She was pregnant. It was a boy. She was going to call him Dean. Her parents began imagining the most loved grandchild there had ever been, a pram already half argued over, a chair already bought. Those plans, her mother would later say, are among the hardest things left behind, the dreams that simply stopped. They would lose not only Natalie but a grandchild they never met, and they would be left, as her mother put it, without even the chance to grieve for him properly. Her family later asked that donations in her memory go to a diabetes research charity, marking the condition she had carried, quietly, all her life. The relationship at the centre of this case was not a long one. In August 2022, Natalie matched with Stephen McCullough on the dating app Bumble. He was a few years older, from Lisburn, and worked part-time for the Belfast Telegraph while building a following as a YouTube content creator, posting long gaming streams to a channel with tens of thousands of subscribers. They began seeing each other. Within months, Natalie was pregnant. By the standards of the life she had imagined, it was fast. And beneath the surface, the record would later show it was not steady. In the weeks before her death, Natalie had been messaging other men, messages that, the prosecution would argue, suggested she was reconsidering the relationship. She had, her family believed, begun to pull back. Whether McCullough knew the full extent of it before that Sunday night is something only he can answer, and he has never truly answered it. What the evidence established is that he found out, and that what he did next was not the reaction of a man losing an argument. It was the reaction of a man who had already decided how the argument would end. Sunday, the 18th of December 2022, was the day of the World Cup final, Argentina against France, one of the most watched football matches in history. Natalie spent part of it, the way she spent so much of her life, with her parents, at their home in Craigavon. Sometime after 5 o'clock, she went back to her own house at Silverwood Green in Lurgan. At just before 6, her phone lit up with a message from McCullough. He told her he planned to stream through the night. She wished him luck and said she might sneak a look at his broadcast. A minute either side of 6 o'clock, that small exchange. Good luck, I'll watch. Closed the door on the last completely ordinary thing anyone knows Natalie McNally to have done. Minutes later, a 6-hour video began playing on his YouTube channel, titled A Violent Night Christmas Live Gaming Stream, presented to the world as if it were happening in real time. It was not, and by the time it started, the prosecution would say he was already moving. CCTV would later assemble the journey in pieces. A man in dark clothing boarded a bus in the Lisbon area, his head and mouth covered so that only his eyes were visible. He travelled toward Lurgan. He got off and walked. He was captured on camera again and again as he moved through the town. a figure with a rucksack, unhurried, taking around half an hour to cover the distance on foot to Silverwood Green. At 8:52 that night, a man carrying a rucksack entered Natalie's street. 2 of her neighbours would tell a jury what came next. At around 9 o'clock, they heard screaming from her home. One described seeing a large shadow move across the patio blinds. At 9:30, the same figure left Silverwood Green, but now, witnesses and cameras agreed, dressed differently, his appearance changed. Whoever had walked in had taken the time, on the way out, to become someone else. Natalie was not found that night. She was found the following evening, Monday the 19th of December, when McCullough went to her house and, at around 10 o'clock, called the emergency services. He told the operator he had come because he hadn't heard from her and was worried. He said she was pregnant. He said they were due to go for a scan the next day. He sobbed. He was talked through CPR. The call ran for roughly 10 minutes, and much of it was hard to make out through the crying.
Is the patient breathing?
Sorry?
Is the patient breathing?
No! She's cold!
Okay. Listen, you think she's pregnant?
Yes!
And she's breathing. Did you say she's cool?
She's cold!
Okay. Listen to me. I'm going to help you, okay? You stay on the line with me. Listen to me. I'm organising help for you now. Stay on the line. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do, okay?
Paramedics and police arrived to a scene that has been described in court in the plainest possible terms. A dog was barking loudly. A knife lay a few feet from Natalie's body in the living room, where there was blood on the floor and on the walls. The first paramedic on the scene noted that her hands and lips had turned blue. A pathologist would later determine she had been dead for around 24 hours, killed the night before, on the Sunday. McCullough was upset, distraught, crying. He was arrested at the scene on suspicion of murder, and then, within a day, he was released. He was let go because he appeared to have an answer for the one question that mattered. Where were you? His answer was the stream. 6 hours of him at home, on camera, playing Grand Theft Auto, addressing his subscribers, referring to the time as the evening went on. To investigators in those first days, it looked airtight. A man cannot be strangling someone in Lurgan and broadcasting live from Lisburn at the same moment. The alibi held, and McCullough walked out of custody. What no one could see yet was how carefully that appearance had been built. In the video, McCullough told viewers he couldn't take live chat because of technical issues. An explanation for why, in a supposedly live broadcast, he never once responded to anything anyone typed in real time. He referenced the current time throughout, anchoring the footage to that Sunday night. It was, the prosecution would eventually argue, a performance recorded for an audience of one, the police who would come asking. In the days after Natalie's death, McCullough did not disappear. He went to the McNally family home. He grieved with them. He showed them an engagement ring he said he had bought for their daughter. He spent time in the house where her body had lain, and he was, at moments, left alone there. He came to the wake. He was there, her family later understood, on Christmas Day.
And then there's a cruel deception of her family in the days after her killing, when Steve McCullough went to the family home to the wake, including on Christmas Day. At one point, Sharon, I arranged to speak to her parents just a few days after she was killed. When I arrived at the house, as I walked in, Steve McCullough walked past me as he went into the garden to have a cigarette.
He did something else in those days too. He pointed the finger elsewhere. He suggested to police that a former partner of Natalie's had been harassing her in the weeks before her death. For a time, that narrative, a grieving boyfriend, a suspicious ex, was allowed to stand alongside his alibi. But the investigation did not stop when he was released. Detectives kept working. They pulled more than 3,000 hours of CCTV, and slowly, the figure on the bus, the figure in the street, the figure changing clothes and getting into a taxi, began to point in only one direction. After the man in disguise left Silverwood Green, he made his way into Lurgan town centre and got into a taxi outside a bar. The driver, Jeff McAvoy, picked up a male passenger late that night and drove him to an address in Lisburn, to Woodland Gardens, where Stephen McCulloch lived. The driver would later pick McCulloch out at a police identification procedure. The taxi's own GPS logs recorded it stopping outside McCulloch's front door at around 11 minutes past 11. The significance was in the mistake. The prosecution's case was that McCulloch had intended to take the train home, keeping his movements clean and anonymous. But he missed the last service. He didn't have the cash for the fare, or so he had planned to avoid one. And instead he had to take a cab, paying in a way he'd hoped would leave no trace. The digital footprint he tried so hard to avoid was created by a train he never caught. His phone told its own story. Between 6 in the evening and just after 11 that night, it showed almost no activity at all, as if its owner had left it behind while he was somewhere he did not want it to be. The alibi was the whole case, and so the alibi had to be broken. That work fell to digital forensics. When investigators examined McCulloch's computer, the streaming software told them what his story could not survive. The broadcasting program showed no background activity during the pauses in the program, activity that a genuine live transmission would have generated continuously. Analysis showed no user interaction with the computer at all between 6 that evening and just after midnight. A single 6-hour recording had been created days earlier, saved in the early hours, and then broadcast on the 18th as though it were happening live. Shortly after midnight, once it had served its purpose, the file was manually deleted. McCulloch maintained the alibi through 8 police interviews across 44 days. He surrendered it only when confronted with the experts' findings, at which point he admitted the video had been pre-recorded, but offered a new account, that he had been at home drinking heavily, Buckfast and Guinness and Baileys, and had fallen asleep. The taxi to his door, the man in disguise, the journey to Lurgan, all of it, he now claimed, was the work of the real killer, someone constructing a false trail to frame him.
They claim he killed her in a planned, calculated, premeditated attack, using a faked live stream on YouTube to give himself an alibi. He denies the charge of murder.
Phone records also show that he sent a text message to Natalie just minutes before he went on YouTube, so I think it was like a minute before 6, saying he planned to stream the night away. She responded, good luck, and said she might sneak a peek at his live stream.
On the 31st of January 2023, McCulloch was arrested for a second time. 2 days later, he was charged with Natalie's murder. What followed was a study in endurance. He was refused bail repeatedly. Prosecutors said he had shown significant premeditation and deceit in building the hoax stream, and pointed to a detail from inside the game footage. A mission selected during the broadcast that involved killing a woman and staging it as an accident. The prosecution called it a taunt. The defense called it a tragic coincidence and insisted the case was entirely circumstantial. Then the case waited. Bail was refused again in 2024 over the risk of interference with witnesses. In late 2025, the trial was adjourned when tens of thousands of pages of new material were disclosed. Natalie had been buried at St. Coleman's Cemetery in Lurgan, her coffin carried out to the killer's song, Human. More than 3 years would pass before a jury finally heard the whole of it. In February 2026, a jury of 6 men and 6 women was sworn in at Belfast Crown Court before Mr. Justice Kinney. Over roughly 5 weeks, they were walked through every strand. The state pathologist, Dr. James Linnes, described multiple stab wounds, heavy blows to the head, and bruising consistent with fingertips pressed into her throat. He could not name one definitive cause of death because more than one injury could have killed her alone. What he could say was that Natalie had endured a prolonged assault. The jury saw the faked stream, the CCTV, the bus, the taxi data, the phone that went quiet. They heard about the engagement ring and about an ex-girlfriend who alleged McCulloch had been abusive and had secretly recorded her private counselling sessions. They heard from the ex-boyfriend he had blamed, a man who admitted lying to police, but who had an alibi and told the court he had nothing to do with her death. In his own police interviews, McCulloch answered no comment more than 80 times. Offered the chance to explain himself under oath, he declined. His defence called no witnesses. The barrister who had promised the jury another killer gave them no one to put in the dock. The judge told the jury the case was built entirely from circumstantial strands, and that their task was to weigh each one and decide whether, together, they proved it. On the 23rd of March 2026, after just over 2 hours, the jury returned. The foreman was asked for the verdict and gave a single word.
When asked what that was, the foreman of the jury replied, "Guilty." The verdict sparked emotion in the courtroom. Members of Natalie McNally's family and friends in the packed public gallery cheered and applauded. Some rose to their feet and punched the air.
We learned late in the trial that Natalie McNally had logged on to YouTube that night to watch what she thought was her boyfriend live streaming. By then, he was well on the way to her house to carry out her murder.
In the gallery, Natalie's family cheered and rose to their feet. McCullough, in the dock, showed almost nothing. Outside the court, 2 of her brothers spoke, not about him, but about her.
Natalie, you were an inspirational person. Having you in our lives was the greatest joy we'll ever have. You would have been an amazing mother to baby Dean. We will love you forever, and we hope you can now rest easy.
Murder carries an automatic life sentence. What remained was the tariff. The judge described a killing that was cold, calculated and concerted. After the verdict, McCullough told a probation officer he was not guilty, then called the killing evil and referred to himself as a monster. The judge did not accept it as genuine remorse. On the 3rd of June 2026, Stephen McCullough was sentenced to life with a minimum of 31 years. Within hours of the verdict, the YouTube channels McCullough had built his alibi on were removed for violating the platform's creator responsibility policies. But the killer is not the centre of her story. The centre is a woman who loved to read, who travelled to watch her football team with her father and brothers, who was about to fill her parents' house with a boy she had already named. She logged on that Sunday night to watch what she thought was Stephen McCullough streaming from home. He was not at home. He was coming for her. Natalie McNally never met her son Dean, and the last thing she did was root for the person who had already decided she would not be allowed to leave.